Andy, you always tell me when it's time to start. Do you want to officially give me a thumbs up? Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Davis. I'm the associate pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church, and I want to both welcome you to this place and to say thank you for showing up this evening. As some of you may have read in the newspaper, this past December, a small group of people were gathered together for an entirely different reason when the subject of the sale of this building came up. And as we were talking and about this together, to everyone's surprise, one person just burst into tears. And then they were surprised by their own emotion and said, I didn't expect to feel this way, but Benson Langhow was where my child's funeral was. And I just remember everyone that came through the door to care for us and support us through that awful moment. And it wasn't long before the rest of us were moved and in tears as well, and we realized that we thought there was a need to give thanks for this place and all that has been to this Northfield community. I've learned recently the difference between a space and a place. Spaces are empty things, waiting for us to make use of them. But places, by contrast, are venues where things have happened, where people have lived and made promises and have been changed. Places are not empty, but they are filled with memories and the presence of those who have occupied these places in the past. And this Benson and Langhow Funeral Home is not just a space to this community, but a place that is filled with memories, some good, some very hard, and a place where words of comfort and hope have been spoken, and a place where we have been changed together. So again, thank you for coming today to this place as we give thanks for it and all the care for our community that has happened here. I think Jeff Johnson from the radio put it best when he said we were having a visitation for the funeral. And so with that, I would like to invite Andy Langhow to come forward to share some words, followed by Marie Benson.
Thank you. Hello, it's great to see everyone, so many familiar faces, and I want to thank Brett Reese for allowing us to be here. We very much appreciate that. And I see my sister and her husband came also, which was very, very nice from Rochester. In the nearly 70-year history of this building, I would estimate that we've served over 5,000 families through here. I would further estimate that this building has probably been the venue for over 3,000 visitations and funerals in its 68-year history. I've had the privilege of being involved in many of those events, and I've seen great sorrow, and I've also seen great happiness. There's an old adage that says, happiness shared is happiness increased, and grief shared is grief diminished. The analogy I would use is that if you had a birthday party and no one attended, it really wouldn't be much happiness, it wouldn't be much fun. It's the people attending that make the event happy. The same is true of grief. When you share the experience of death and its profound pain and loss with someone, for a time at least, you've diminished the pain by sharing the pain. We see it play out time and time again when people hug and cry and laugh. The visitation takes on all elements of emotions. I've seen it time and time again when a family is leaving the visitation of the funeral of a loved one and they comment how wonderful things were. It's kind of funny when you think they're at the gathering for their loved one and they say how wonderful it was. Tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people, have entered this building and shared that grief. With that said, it's not just a building that makes a difference, it's what happened in this building that makes the difference. This building represents that experience, and the time has come for this building to be done. Marie?
Well, I'm so glad to see all of you today, and I'm sorry that Mr. Langhow doesn't have chairs for everyone. He's kind of busy sometimes.
He's new.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to say farewell to this building too, even though it's been quite a few years since Dwayne retired, and I said goodbye to it then. But then occasionally I would come and harass Andy about some minor little thing and give him a bad time. So, I've been in the office. Dwayne and I moved to Northfield in October of 1966 to purchase the Zahnmiller Funeral Home located at 917 Division Street after the death of the owner, George Zahnmiller. It was almost 100% a Catholic funeral home, only serving Catholic families. In November 1971, the family of John Anderson called Dwayne one day and asked him to come over to visit with them the next morning. And so he did. He came over about 8:30. He was on his way to the cities to pick up a casket at a warehouse. And it was in a location way past downtown St. Paul on the north side, and I didn't want to drive through all that traffic early in the morning, so I told him, I'll stay home and answer the phone, you go get the casket. So the next day he went over, and they told him that their dad, John Anderson, was very ill and had just a few months to live, and they wanted to sell the business to him. Wow, what a shock. We purchased the funeral home here in late December of 1971. Dwayne melded both businesses into this facility, which served the families of all faiths, church and including unchurched families as well. Every once in a while, we'd have a family that had absolutely no church affiliation. But because they'd had a death, they thought maybe it would be kind of nice to have a preacher. And so then he would call around and ask different fellas if they'd come in and do a service for them, or at least, give a devotional and such. And that worked out really quite well. We had hundreds of visitations and numerous funerals here over the time that we owned this business. Prayer services were often offered at the time of the beginning of the visitation, and if it was a Catholic family, Dwayne knew the rosary because he'd been taught that at the university during school, and he would get down on the kneeler up front here, and he'd start the rosary, and then everybody else would pray. So, in 2001, we sold this business to Andy Langhouse, and since Dwayne was only 62 at the time, they agreed that Dwayne would be employed here until he turned 65. After his retirement, he continued to work, only ushering and greeting people as they came in for a funeral. That is, unless he had a tea time or we were going to be out of town. Those were legitimate reasons. He worked up until, let's see.
Summer before he died.
Yeah, late summer before he died. Yeah. He was still working with Andy until his sudden illness and death, a few months before that. And he died in early December of 2020. Our family also had his visitation here. Stood right over there, right along there. And we're greeted by, and we greeted people who had come to give their final goodbye to Dwayne as well, and to express their sympathy to all of us and our family. My grandkids were overwhelmed with all the people that came, just overwhelmed. It was really important to us to hear the words of sorrow, but also good memories of things that Dwayne had done for them, helped them with over the years, as they were dealing with a death of a family member. And sometimes families had numerous funerals with Dwayne, so they became very familiar with him and he with them, and that was really neat to see. We know that there are words of sadness for you, along with a hug, tears, and acknowledgement of your loss. And it's very comforting to have that support. And that's what we do for each other, right? Now, this same caring, supportive time to comfort a friend or to receive it is at the Bierman Benson Funeral Home, located at 1316 Division. I want to thank all of you for coming today. This was really awfully nice to have a final goodbye, and I'm really glad that I could be a part of it. So, thank you.
Along with hearing from Andy and Marie, we thought it might be nice to have a short reflection from a community member, and we have asked Carrie Duba if she would share a few words.
Andy, did you say 3,000 invitations? 3,000?
I believe just the calculations I did, probably, yes.
Yeah. So we were one of the 3,000. And it was a kind of surprising number to me because there's nothing really extraordinary about our story. It's a pretty ordinary transition, life transition. When my dad passed away, this is where we landed. And it's incredibly important during that time when you're so fragile and vulnerable to have a place that's safe. And Marie, we lined up right over there. And I think about that I don't have a lot of memories actually, right? Like those transitions, they're hard, it's all a blur, like there were days, like who knows what was going on. But I have very clear memories of being in here. And I remember that line, and I think I'm gonna get through this okay. I remember the faces coming in, some of the beloved faces that are here today. I remember those coming in and sharing our stories and sharing our sorrows and lifting us up and being here with us. And our children were newly in college, so I want to add fragile on top of fragile, right? I was a new empty nester, and my dad had died, and I remember the kids' car driving up out front, coming straight from the airport, and walking right through that door, those beloved Duba faces, right, Ruth? And going right to their grandmother, right? And it was just this, I was thinking about space too, but I love what you said. Thank you for saying what you said about space and place. But I think about how space gets transformed, and we can create a container of love and safety, and that's what happened here. This is not a building that we drive by, right? It's a bit of a sacred space that we drive by, because this is where we had that moment with our beloved friends and family, and prepared to say goodbye to my dad. And so this is a very meaningful place for us. And we can never thank Andy and crew enough for making sure that what transpired here was something that was a blessing to us and our family.
Thanks to Andy and Marie and to Carrie. Often in churches and other faith communities, there are liturgies for commissioning and decommissioning buildings and items that serve a purpose. Mindful that not everyone in our community is a person of the same faith or any faith at all, we wanted to offer a broad liturgy of thanksgiving and blessing as we release this place to a new purpose to our community. And so I'm very grateful to be joined by Vicar Cody Matus, and from All Saints Episcopal, Pastor Lauren Bass Davis from First United Church of Christ, and Pastor Pam Fickenshire, who is the senior pastor at St. John's. So I'll invite my fellow clergy to
we gather this day, let us acknowledge with solemn joy the gift of this place, this container of safety and love, as our friend said. Let us gather to remember with gratitude all who have gathered here in grief and love, longing for peace and for hope. This has been a place for us where we have embraced and released loved ones into God's good and eternal care. This has been a place where people have showed up in our time of deep need. For nearly 70 years, this place has been a shelter in the storm of grief. It has been, in short, a gift from God. What we have received from God, let us now return to God with thanksgiving. We give thanks for the ministry that has happened here, for the people in our Northfield community.
A reading from Genesis. God said to Jacob, "Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go." Then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." He said, "How full of awe is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven."
Did you know that there is a patron saint of funeral directors? It's Joseph of Arimathea, who we hear about in the Gospel of Matthew. When it was evening, there came a man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. As we give thanks together for this place and all that it has meant to this community, with each petition, we invite you to respond, we give thanks. In this place, made holy by years of dedicated service and loving care, let us raise our voices in thanksgiving.
We give thanks. For all those who have walked through the doors of this place to celebrate the lives of loved ones and to honor their memories, for these doors,
We give thanks.
For all who have served faithfully on the staff of this place, and most especially the funeral directors. For all who have cared for our beloved dead, for all who have cared for us in our grief and our sorrow. For this office and its staff.
we give thanks.
For all the priests, pastors, and other faith leaders who have officiated services in this place, for the chapel and memorial area, we give thanks.
For all of the memories held in this place,
We give thanks.
For the community that has gathered here, sharing in joys and in sorrows.
We give thanks.
For the continuing work and ministry of Bierman, Benson, and Reinhow Funeral Home.
We give thanks. For all that was, for all that is, and for all that is yet to come, we give thanks.
Today we have celebrated with thanksgiving the blessing that this building has provided for our community for nearly 70 years. Among many other things, this place has been one of worship and reverence, a place where we have commended our beloved dead to the mercy of God. Although the life of this funeral home will continue, this place will no longer house that work. For almost 70 years, this building and the land on which it stands and all of the objects within it have been set apart for the work of mortuary science and the ministry of caring for the dead and the living. On this 14th day of March in the year 2024, we, on behalf of all faith leaders in our community, declare this building decommissioned and deconsecrated, and in God's name we commend it for other honorable and loving purposes.
In closing and blessing for what comes next, may this space continue to be a blessing for the Northfield community. May it be a place of warmth and welcome, a place of joy and connection. May it meet a need for the people of Northfield. We bless this space and pray for its renewal and new beginning. And the people said, Amen. Thank you for being here. You are invited to continue to enjoy some treats and refreshments in each other's company. Thanks for coming today.